What's up, everyone? My name is Virgil. I'm from Messengers of Christ, MOC Ministry. And today I just want to talk to you about Mary and all the amazing things and all the amazing times that she's been there throughout my life interceding for me. Woman, behold your son. Like, how powerful is it that as Jesus was dying on the cross, he already paid the ultimate price. And he's on that cross thinking, what more can I give my children? What more can I do to equip them for the road that lies ahead? And on that cross, as he's dying, one of the last things he does is he gives us a mother. That mother that he gave us, Mary, his mother, she's the one that was with the beginning of the church. Through her prayers, she was with the disciples. Through her prayer, through her intercessions, she was there at the beginning of the church, just like she was there at the beginning, really even before my life began. My mother, when she was still pregnant with me, she was going for a checkup at 7 months pregnant. And the doctors told her, ma'am, you can't leave. You have to give birth right here and now. And so my mother said, okay, let's do this, I'm ready. And complication after complication happened. And the doctors ultimately, they told her, you need to decide. It's either going to be your life or your son's life. And so my mom, who was a woman of prayer, she took it and she prayed on it, and she kept it in her heart. And it's so funny because my mom telling the story, like I just thought of Mary, how Mary kept the things that Jesus did in her heart. And so she kept it in her heart and she prayed. She fell asleep praying. And as she was sleeping, she had a vision of Mary come to her bedside. And Mary told her, I will be interceding for your son. I will not leave him. I will not abandon him. I will be interceding for him the whole time. I will take care of him. And so my mom, she was still scared, justifiably so, but she told the doctors, when the doctors came in and said, well, ma'am, what's going to be your decision? Is it you or your son? She said, I'm going to have my son, and let it be God's will, whatever happens to me. And so lo and behold, she gave birth to me, and she ended up being okay after a short hospital stint. Then fast forward a couple months later, and my mom is going back to work, and my grandmother is taking care of me. And I started crying and crying, and I was inconsolable. Next thing my grandmother knows, I stopped breathing. My face turned purple. And she started panicking. She started saying the Hail Mary in Spanish. And she called my mom. She's panicking. Her grandson is dying right in front of her. So she calls her daughter, my mom. My mom calls the ambulance. My mom is rushing home. And my grandmother just praying the rosary, because that's the only thing she could think of doing. She's saying, God, please let this baby breathe. I don't let him die on my watch. And so I started slowly breathing again, but they take me to the hospital anyway to see what's wrong, to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so they're doing test studies on me, and they have me in an incubator. And my grandmother and my mom are just keeping watch all night. And so they're watching me through the incubator, and they're praying the rosary nonstop. And they both closed their eyes while praying the rosary. And they both said that they saw the Virgin Mary standing over my incubator, interceding for me. And they both shared the story, and they became emotional at this. And so I ended up being okay. I was discharged from the hospital. And then fast forward to my college days. I'm a freshman in college. I start spiraling into a huge depression. Baseball was taken away from me. Baseball was my number one in my life, more so than God, more so than anything, school, anything. And so I start falling in this depression. I joined a fraternity, and I start engaging in heavy drinking, drugs, you name it. I would spend days outside of my house. And all the while, my mom is at home losing sleep because her son isn't coming home for 2-3 days at a time, praying the rosary. And we had many fights whenever I would come home. And then one day I come home, my father's had enough. And there was my mother just standing behind my father fighting with me. And she's just standing there in tears with the rosary in her hand. And it was right there in that moment that I just looked at the rosary and I didn't even say anything. The only thing that came to me was like, I gotta stop. And so I stopped what I was doing. And then, you know, a little while later, my now wife, she invites me to my first retreat. And there was a server there. And she comes up to me. I don't know this woman from a hole in the wall. She comes up to me and she just hands me a rosary. And I told her, I said, what is this for? She's like, I've been praying for you. God put you in my heart. And I've been praying for you. And he keeps telling me that I need to give you this rosary and that you need to pray to Mary. Mary's calling you. Mary's been interceding for you your whole life. And I'll be honest, I just started going to church, so I still wasn't connecting the dots. But, you know, I took it and I started praying the rosary every once in a while. And then I started thinking of, you know, my infancy and everything that I went through, my complications, and how my mother and my grandmother both had visions of Mary at my side. So I started taking it seriously, and then I started serving at retreats. And with that same rosary that I would take with me to every retreat, I meet this kid who he's struggling in his life. He's struggling with drinking. He's struggling with drugs, with depression. And he's also spending days without being home. His parents are worried sick about him. That's why they sent him to the retreat. He had a brother just like me that's overseas serving in the armed forces. And God puts it in my heart to give him the rosary the same way I was given the rosary. I gave him the rosary. I pulled him aside. We had like a lunch break and I pulled him aside. I gave him the rosary. And he just started breaking down crying. And he said, you don't know how much this means to me. My mom prays the rosary for me every day. And all I keep thinking about is how I take her peace with my depression and how I've tried to commit suicide. And it's so crazy because Mary's had such an impact in my life that everywhere I go and I speak about Mary and anything related to Mary, I always find a brother that Mary is calling. And that's the role that Mary has been playing in my life. And it's so beautiful. It's something that has come to me in prayer where, you know, we talk about Kobe Bryant and, you know, the hashtag girl dad, but really Mary is a boy mom, you know. Mary calls us men especially to pray to her and to really be close to her. And I'll share one more testimony. I was married to my wife for almost 3 years at that point. And a very, very, very dear brother and sister, Tim and Raquel Hanley, they learned of our struggles to conceive. And so we were at their house one day and Raquel and Tim just bring us over to this beautiful, beautiful mural that they have of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And Raquel, in prayer, she just turns to us and she says, recite the Memorare every day and give it to Mary. Let Mary intercede for you. Just give it to her and ask for her intercession. And lo and behold, we didn't get pregnant once, we got pregnant twice. The first time, you know, unfortunately, we had a miscarriage, but we kept the faith strong. We kept praying to Mary, and literally right after she had the miscarriage, we got pregnant again, and we have a beautiful baby boy named Nathaniel. It just goes to show, you know, how Mary has been there in my life and my wife's life and our lives, and how every time we've went through a low point, Mary has been there to brush us off and bring us closer to Jesus. And my men, especially my brothers in Christ, consecrate yourselves to Mary. I'm telling you, my brothers, you struggle with lust or your chastity, Mary's there. You struggle with your pride, Mary's there. You struggle with humility, Mary's there. Your envy, Mary's there. Mary's there for all of it. So my brothers and sisters, I invite you on, especially my brothers, go get your boy mom.